Welcome. In your journey towards home ownership here in Maryland, we are going to discuss one of the transfer charges involved when you are purchasing this property in the state of Maryland. My name is Brenda Kasuva. I am the broker at Cast Realty, and the focus here is understanding the transfer charges that come along when you purchase a property, specifically the ones tied to the government. There are three of them. And what this means is similar to you going to the store and purchasing something, and then there's going to be a sales tax. There are going to be three charges involved in transferring the property from the previous owner, potentially the seller, to you, the buyer. Recordation tax, state, local transfer taxes. Generally, these are going to be split evenly between the buyer and the seller unless agreed upon differently. These three government transfer charges are going to be collected the day of settlement by the title company. We shall have a review about what the title company's role is. The three are state transfer tax, recordation tax, meaning the property is now yours, it no longer is owned by the previous seller, and then the local jurisdiction, for example, Baltimore County, Montgomery County, local transfer tax. These three taxes are going to be split evenly, 50-50, between the buyer and the seller, unless negotiated differently. What do I mean by that? As an example, buyer, if you have extra money and you want to make your offer more attractive from all the other offers that the seller is receiving, and you want to cover the seller's share, you're able to do so. It just needs to be in writing. Otherwise, automatically, it's going to be split evenly, those three charges. And this is collected the day of closing, settlement, the day you're getting the keys to the house. Some jurisdictions are going to give you a discount or a benefit because you're going to be living in the property and count this as your principal residence. What that means when they're calculating how much the local jurisdiction, for example, Baltimore County, if you're going to be living in the property, then they're not going to tax you for a certain amount of the sales price that you're buying the property for. Let's cover the state transfer tax. The state of Maryland is collecting this tax. It is going to be 0.5% of the price that you're buying the property for or getting it for. Once again, it is divided evenly between the buyer and the seller. So that means the buyer would pay 0.25% and the seller would pay 0.25% of the state transfer tax. Remember, we still need to consider the recordation tax and the local jurisdiction or county tax. Welcoming you to the state of Maryland. If you are a first-time home buyer, there's a benefit. What this means is if you've never bought a house anywhere before, and this is your first time, you happen to be buying it in Maryland, welcome. You might also get this benefit if this is the first time you're buying a property in the state of Maryland. You could own a house in North Carolina, California, Texas, and now you're buying for the first time in Maryland. As a welcome, the state of Maryland is going to pay your share of the state transfer tax. Another way to say that is if you're a first-time home buyer buying in the state of Maryland, one of the benefits is that the state of Maryland is going to eliminate, discount, pay for you your share of the state transfer tax. Remember, it's being split evenly, and therefore the first-time home buyer's share of 0.25% is going to be paid for. They're not going to be charged that amount when they get in the keys to the property. However, the seller still needs to pay their share when the property is being transferred to that first-time home buyer. So once again, the seller will still be responsible for paying their share of the state transfer tax along with the other taxes I spoke of earlier. Recordation tax to record the property. Now it is owned by you, and the local transfer taxes. Let's review the local and recordation taxes. So recordation, to echo, and I know I've said it multiple times, recordation tax is just to show that now this property, you bought it from Brenda, you now own it, and that is recorded in public records. Should anyone want to find out, they'll be able to access that. And then we have the local county jurisdiction taxes. If, for example, I'm going to be buying in Montgomery County, Carroll County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and so forth, the 24 jurisdictions, including Baltimore City, there's going to be potentially a local county jurisdiction tax. Either way, dear first-time home buyer or dear buyer, dear seller, this is going to be split evenly. These two taxes are going to be split evenly between the buyers and the sellers. When you are purchasing this property, we're going to do our best representing you as your real estate agent to make sure this is all ironed out in the purchase or sales agreement. One of the clauses that you're going to see might look like this. This is a sample borrowed from Maryland Realtors, which covers what I just spoke about. If we're going to negotiate it differently, we need to put that in writing when it comes to the recordation, state, and local transfer taxes if you're not a first-time home buyer in the state of Maryland. Since our channel is geared towards first-time home buyers here in Maryland, then letter B is going to be applicable to that person. The state transfer tax is going to be eliminated. Seller is still responsible for their share, but if you want to cover the seller's cost, then we're going to put that in writing on that particular clause presented there. Here's an example of the cost. I borrowed this from that particular attorney's company website. He has just given you a snapshot of what that looks like. If I skim through, you're seeing that, for example, Calvert County does not have a local transfer tax. Same with Carroll County. And so each area is going to look different. The title company will be making sure that is calculated correctly. Your real estate agent, us here at Cast Realty, are also going to make sure that is calculated correctly. Key takeaways from this particular conversation is that when you're purchasing a property, there's going to be costs associated with getting that property. These transfer charges in particular include 3: state transfer tax, recordation taxes, and local jurisdiction county transfer taxes. These are normally going to be split evenly between the buyers and the sellers. unless we negotiate it differently, and it needs to be in writing. For first-time home buyers, the benefit, whether it is applicable that you've never bought a house before in this particular country, or it is applicable that you've never bought a property in the state of Maryland, your benefit as a welcome to the state of Maryland is that your share of the state transfer tax is covered by the state. Come back for additional videos that will walk you through this journey of you becoming a first-time home buyer here in the state of Maryland. Take care.